Have you ever read an article that was super insightful and informative? It probably inspired many conversations between you and your friends. Conversely, what about an article that made you scratch your head and wonder, why is this even news? How is a story's newsworthiness determined? Is there some kind of standard that journalists use? These are very good questions, so let's dive right in. A story's newsworthiness is largely determined by its news value. In other words, it is a standard that determines whether the event is worth media attention. If the event has many news values, then journalists and reporters are more likely to spend their time and resources on it. You might be thinking, but I want to become a strategic communication professional, not a journalist. How will this be helpful? Well, there is a saying that the most successful public relations professionals are those who think and act like reporters. By understanding the news value of your messages, you can increase your chances of getting media coverage for your brand. This would greatly improve your company's media relations too. So, what are these values? Currently, there are 8 values used to determine a story's newsworthiness. They are timeliness, proximity, human interest, currency, prominence, impact, novelty, and conflict. You might find other sources naming them differently, but their meaning remains the same. Let us now go through each of them in detail. Timeliness refers to stories that have recently taken place or will happen in the near future. Breaking news stories or stories about unexpected events are some examples. Next, we have proximity. Proximity considers the location of the event in line with the target audience. This is because audiences are more likely to pay attention to stories that take place in their local communities. For instance, we are more likely to pay attention to daily COVID-19 updates and tallies in Singapore compared to other numbers in Paris and France. Then, we have human interest. As the name suggests, such news depict a person, organization, or community that encourages an emotional connection. These stories are often emotionally compelling and grab the audience's attention. For instance, think about Miss Charlene Chu, a third-degree burn survivor who inspired and touched the hearts of many Singaporeans. Many people admired her resilience and positive attitude. To date, several media outlets have featured her, including Mothership and Vogue Singapore. Following which, we have currency, which refers to trending topics in the news media or other media like Twitter and Facebook. For example, in May 2021, the BTS collaboration with McDonald's Singapore started trending on social media. Local news outlets also covered their iconic purple packaging and spatial accompanying sauces. However, such topics usually have short lifespan in the news cycle because they are only discussed briefly by the public. Then, we have prominence. Stories that feature famous individuals or public figures carry news value. For example, in 2015, it was reported that Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong was diagnosed with prostate cancer. It should be noted that prostate cancer is the 3rd most common cancer amongst men in Singapore. However, Prime Minister Lee's public profile made the otherwise ordinary story even more newsworthy. Up next, we have impact. People are more likely to care about stories that directly affect their lives. As such, the media will devote more time and resources to cover such stories. For instance, the outcome of the Singapore general elections in 2020 was covered by many media outlets globally. However, it was covered much more thoroughly in Singapore because it is an important event with many local implications. Then, we have novelty, which refers to stories that are odd or unusual and makes audiences curious. For instance, many news outlets cover stories about how a family of otters ate more than 100 koi fish at Singapore's Church of St. Teresa in 4 days. In concrete jungle, Singapore, such animal adventures are usually not seen, which boosts the uniqueness of this story. Last but not least, we have conflict. This refers to stories about power struggles between individuals or groups. They can also include war, crime, and social discord events. For instance, in January 2021, the news reported on a protest held outside the Ministry of Education. This protest was held amid anger in the LGBT community against transphobia. The conflict between the LGBT community and the government grabbed the attention of the audiences. And that's it. News values have evolved over time, and there is debate among scholars if other criteria should be included. However, we can definitely still find these news values useful in helping us determine the newsworthiness of a story. Next time, when you hear any news, will you be able to identify the news value highlighted in that story?